3 players, 1 dynasty. And the question that every single NFL fan right now is asking, can the Kansas City Chiefs actually do it again? Think about what this team has done. Think about what they've pulled off over the last several years. Super Bowl after Super Bowl, trophy after trophy, dynasty after dynasty. And every single time the football world thought it was over, every single time somebody said the window was closing, the team was getting old, the league had finally figured them out, Kansas City came back. Meaner, hungrier, and somehow even more dangerous than before. But 2026 is different. This isn't the same Chiefs team that you've been watching win championships. There have been changes. Big ones. Players have left. Stars have walked out the door. The secondary got blown up. The wide receiver room was almost completely gutted. And sitting on top of all of it, still in a red jersey, still calling plays from the pocket, still the most dangerous quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes. Now here is where it gets really interesting, because the Chiefs didn't panic. They didn't go out and spend $100 million on big names to plug the holes. They didn't chase shiny free agents. They did what they always do. They went back to the formula. They looked inward. They bet on their own guys. And they drafted. And they developed. And now, heading into the 2026 season, there are 3 players on this roster who are standing at the edge of something massive. 3 players who are about to have the kind of years that change careers, that launch legacies, that make people look back and say, I knew it. I saw it coming. And if you're a Chiefs fan, you want to know who they are. If you're an NFL fan, you want to know if Kansas City can sustain this dynasty with fresh blood. And if you've been sleeping on these 3 names, this video is about to wake you up. So let's go. But before we get into the players, we have to understand the moment we're in, because context is everything. You can't appreciate where these players are going without understanding where the Chiefs are right now. The 2025 season was a strange one in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes was dealing with a knee injury. Rashee Rice missed the first 6 games due to a suspension. Xavier Worthy got hurt in Week 1, a brutal collision with a teammate that knocked him out of the lineup. Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, they were there, they were trying, but something just felt off about that team. It never quite clicked the way Chiefs teams always click. And on defense, it was a similar story. Trent McDuffie, one of the best young cornerbacks in the entire NFL, was still there. But pieces around him were shifting. Jalen Watson was dealing with a groin injury that just wouldn't go away. The secondary was patchwork for stretches. And while the Chiefs still managed to be competitive, the Empire felt, for the first time in a long time, like it had some cracks. Then the offseason came, and everything changed. McDuffie got traded to the Los Angeles Rams. Just like that, boom, one of their best defensive players gone. Jalen Watson walked in free agency. Juju was released. Hollywood Brown, gone. The defensive backfield that had anchored 2 Super Bowl runs was essentially wiped clean, handed over to a new generation. This is the kind of offseason that breaks teams. This is the kind of offseason where dynasties end, where the rebuilding phase begins, where you stop being a contender and start being a respectful 9-8 team that's on the right track. But here is what you need to understand about Andy Reid and Brett Veach. Here is what makes this franchise different from everyone else. They don't rebuild. They reload. Every time a door closes, they've already got a window open. Every time a star walks out, there's someone in the building who is watching, learning, waiting, and ready to explode. And right now, there are 3 players in Kansas City who are ready. Let's start with the first one. Number 3 on this list, and I'm going from 3 to 1, saving the best for last, because that's how you tell a story, is a wide receiver who most of the football world had already written off. His name is Tyquan Thornton, and his story, his actual story, is one of the most remarkable redemption arcs in the entire NFL right now. Go back to 2022. New England Patriots are on the clock in the 2nd round of the NFL Draft. They're looking at their wide receiver room, and they've got a need. They need speed. They need someone who can stretch the field, who can threaten defenses vertically, who can make a defensive back question his entire life every time he lines up across from him. And they select Tyquan Thornton out of Baylor. 2nd round. Pick number 50 overall. Now, at the time, that felt like a reasonable pick. Thornton had run a 4.28 in the 40-yard dash at the combine. Read that number again. 4.28. That is not a fast man. That is a bolt of lightning wrapped in shoulder pads. That is a man who runs so fast that when he catches the ball and turns upfield, defensive backs just sort of stand there for a second because their brains can't process what they just saw. But Baylor felt like a reach. The Patriots had taken a project. A guy who had elite physical tools but questionable college production. And for 3 years in New England, 3 long, frustrating, inconsistent years, the project never quite came together. First it was a broken collarbone. Then it was inconsistency. Then it was a regime change. Then it was another coaching staff, another system, another set of expectations. By November of 2024, the Patriots released him. He was a free agent. Former second-round pick that nobody had figured out. A player with a ridiculous 4.28 speed who had spent 3 years proving that speed alone doesn't win games. Most guys in that situation don't recover. Most guys at that point start thinking about careers outside of football. Most guys end up on a practice squad somewhere and quietly disappear from the league. But Thornton didn't go anywhere. Kansas City picked him up, stashed him on the practice squad. And then the 2025 season started, and everything went sideways for the Chiefs right from Jump Street. Xavier Worthy went down in Week 1. Rashee Rice was suspended for 6 games. And suddenly, Patrick Mahomes, most prepared, most detailed, most obsessive quarterback on the planet, was looking down his sideline, and the guy he needed to step up was Tyquan Thornton. The guy the Patriots had given up on. The guy who was on a $1 million deal. The guy everyone had already forgotten about. And what did Thornton do? He went out in those first 5 games, with the wide receiver room at its most desperate, Mahomes needing someone to step into the fire, and he caught 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns. He was hauling in deep balls. He was creating space underneath because defenses had to respect his speed. He was giving Kansas City an entirely new dimension to its offense, and Mahomes? Mahomes loved it. You could see the connection. You could see Mahomes looking for him. You could see the trust being built in real time. Thornton finished the 2025 season with 19 catches for 438 yards and 3 touchdowns. That might not look like world-beating numbers on a stat sheet. But look deeper. Look at the yards per catch number. 23.1 yards per catch. Lead the entire team. One of the highest in the entire NFL. Every single time Thornton caught the ball, he was going more than 20 yards. Every single catch was a chunk play, a momentum shifter, a backbreaker for the opposing defense. And then his snaps started to dip. The receivers got healthy. The roster got crowded. And Thornton found himself watching more than he was playing. Here's what that tells you. That tells you there is untapped production sitting inside this man. Those 19 catches happened on limited opportunities, on an inconsistent snap count, with 0 continuity in his role. It happens when Tyquan Thornton has a real, consistent, defined role in this offense. That's the question for 2026. And the Chiefs answered it in the clearest way possible. They brought him back. Not on a 1-year prove-it deal. Not on a minimum salary contract. They gave him a 2-year deal worth up to $14 million. They committed to him. They invested in him. They made a statement. This man is part of our plans. And the situation in 2026 is absolutely perfect for him. Hollywood Brown is gone. Juju Smith-Schuster is gone. The wide receiver room is now Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Tyquan Thornton. He is the number 3 receiver on this team. He has a defined role. He has Mahomes. He has Andy Reid. He has a 2-year contract that gives him security and motivation all at once. Here's what I need you to understand about what Thornton can do for a defense. When you have a receiver running routes at 4.28 speed, it doesn't just affect the plays he's involved in. It affects every single play. Every time Thornton lines up on the outside, the cornerback across from him has to give him cushion. Has to respect that he can blow by him at any moment. That creates space. That opens up routes for Rice and Worthy underneath. That gives Mahomes options he might not otherwise have. Thornton is basically a cheat code against certain defenses. When a cornerback has to play 15 yards off the line because he's terrified of giving up a 90-yard touchdown, the underneath stuff becomes automatic. Quick slants, crossing routes, screen passes, all of it becomes easier when a defense is thinking about that 4.28 speed on every snap. And now Thornton has more experience in this offense than he's ever had. He has the chemistry with Mahomes already built. He has a chip on his shoulder from years of being underestimated, years of being cut, years of being told he couldn't put it all together. He has motivation that most players can only dream of. If Thornton stays healthy, and that's the one caveat, because he did finish last season on injured reserve with a concussion, but if he stays healthy, this is the best opportunity of his career. The road is clear. The role is waiting. The quarterback is ready. Tyquan Thornton is about to show the NFL what happens when they finally give a lightning bolt the space to run. All right. Player number 2. And this one is going to make some of you go out and look up film immediately. Because this player has been hiding in plain sight. He played nearly 500 snaps last season, and most of the casual NFL fan base has absolutely no idea who he is. But the people who were paying attention, they saw something special. And in 2026, the rest of the world is going to see it too. His name is Noel Williams, and he might be the most important player in Kansas City's rebuilt secondary. Let's set the scene. When Trent McDuffie got traded to Los Angeles, there was a panic in the Chiefs Kingdom fan base that was entirely understandable. McDuffie was exceptional. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the entire AFC. Losing him to the Rams felt like a gut punch, like watching one of the pillars of the dynasty just get pulled out of the building. But before you panic about what you lost, you need to look at what you already have. Noel Williams was drafted by Kansas City in the 3rd round of the 2025 NFL Draft, pick 85 overall, out of the University of California. And at Cal, he was an absolute ball hawk. He intercepted 14 passes in his college career. 14. To put that in perspective, most starting cornerbacks in the NFL don't have 14 interceptions in their entire professional career. Williams had 14 in college alone. His final year at Cal, 7 interceptions. He led all of Division I college football in interceptions. Not just cornerbacks. All positions. Every single player at every level of college football. Nobody picked off more passes than Noel Williams in 2024. That kind of ball-hawking instinct doesn't just happen. That's not a scheme thing. That's not a lucky bounce thing. When you're leading all of Division I football in interceptions, you see the game differently. You have instincts that other players simply don't have. You read quarterbacks the way most people read billboards, instantly, without thinking about it, processing information before anyone else even realizes the play has started. Now, his rookie year in Kansas City was more of a developmental situation than anyone hoped. He was behind McDuffie and Watson on the depth chart. He played about 44% of the defensive snaps, not nothing, but not a starter's workload either. There were 3 weeks in the middle of the season where he played 0, 0, and 7 defensive snaps. That's frustrating for a player. That's hard. You're sitting there, you're ready, you know you can contribute, and you're watching from the sideline. But here's the thing. Williams didn't pout. He didn't demand a trade. He put his head down. He learned. He studied Spagnuolo's system. He developed his technique. And when he did get on the field, he was outstanding. PFF, Pro Football Focus, the analytics platform that grades every single player on every single snap, graded Williams with a 74.5 overall defensive grade in 2025. That placed him 14th among all qualified cornerbacks in the entire NFL. As a rookie, playing on limited snaps, behind 2 established starters. His coverage grade of 75.6 ranked 12th at the position. His run defense grade of 74.7 ranked 19th. Placed in the 93rd percentile in single coverage grade. The 93rd percentile. That means out of every 100 cornerbacks in the NFL, only 7 were better than Noel Williams in single coverage situations. PFF named him to their 2026 All-Breakout team, a list that identifies second-year players who they believe are about to take a massive leap forward. Williams was one of only 2 cornerbacks on that entire team. And now the table is completely set for him. McDuffie is gone. Watson is gone. Noel Williams is expected to be a starting outside cornerback in 2026, lining up opposite first-round pick Mansour Delane, who was taken with the 6th overall pick in the draft this year. Think about that secondary for a second. A first-round pick and a second-year corner who PFF says is a top 15 cornerback in the entire league. That's not a secondary in crisis. That might be a secondary that's about to be legitimately elite. And here's the part that should excite you most. Williams has only just started. He's in his second NFL season. He's still learning. He's still growing. His rookie year, with all its limitations, with all its inconsistency in playing time, that was already good enough to rank in the top 15 at his position in the NFL. What happens when he gets a full season of reps? What happens when he has the consistency that comes with being a true starter? What happens when all those college instincts, all those interception habits he built over 4 years at Cal, finally have a full-time stage to play on? There's a number that sticks with me when I think about Noel Williams. He ended his rookie season on a tear. In the final 5 games of 2025, he recorded 23 of his 48 total tackles. That means he was getting more and more comfortable as the year went on. He was hitting his stride right as the season ended. He was playing his best football at the most important time of year. That is the trajectory of a player about to break out. That is the momentum of someone who is just getting started. The Chiefs' secondary is young. It's new. It's unproven in some ways. But Noel Williams is the kind of player who could make it all work. He's the kind of cornerback who could step into a leadership role in that room earlier than anyone expects. He has the instincts, intelligence, and now for the first time in his NFL career, the opportunity. Kansas City is counting on him. The whole defense is counting on him. And based on everything he showed as a rookie, he is absolutely ready to deliver. All right. We've talked about the offense. We've talked about the secondary. Now it's time to talk about the trenches. Because the best teams in the NFL, the teams that last, the teams that win when it matters most in January, are built in the trenches. You can have the best quarterback in the world, and Kansas City does. But if the defensive line can't generate pressure, if the front four can't get home against a playoff-caliber offensive line, everything else falls apart. The Chiefs have had tremendous defensive linemen over the years. Chris Jones was an all-time great in that front seven. The interior pressure he provided was one of the defining features of Kansas City's championship runs. Jones is gone now, and the question hanging over the defensive front going into 2026 was simple. Where does the next interior presence come from? The answer came on day 1 of the 2026 NFL Draft. Player number 1 on our list. The player I believe is going to have the biggest year of any player on this entire team. A 21-year-old defensive tackle from Clemson, Alabama born. A first-round pick taken with the 29th overall selection in the 2026 draft. His name is Peter Woods. And everything about this man screams monster. Let's go back to the beginning, because if you're going to appreciate what Peter Woods is, you need to understand where he came from. He was born in Greensboro, Alabama, a small town about 30 miles south of Tuscaloosa, deep in SEC football country, where football isn't just a game, it's a religion, it's a language, it's a way of life. He went to Thompson High School in nearby Alabaster. And at Thompson, Woods didn't just play football. He dominated it. He started on the varsity team as an 8th grader. Read that again. He was 14 years old, going up against juniors and seniors in high school, and he was not just surviving. He was winning. By the time he graduated, he had helped Thompson win 4 state championships. 4. He was the player every offensive coordinator in Alabama had nightmares about. By the time the recruiting services got done ranking the 2023 college football class, Noel Woods was the number 9 overall recruit in the entire country. Not just at his position. Not just in his region. In the entire country. ESPN listed him as the number 1 defensive tackle in the nation. All the services had him as a 4-star or 5-star prospect. The best programs in college football were fighting over him. Alabama was right there. They'd have loved to keep him at home. Georgia was in the mix. Florida State, all of them. He chose Clemson. And at Clemson, he was immediately everything everyone hoped he would be. As a true freshman in 2023, he earned freshman All-American honors from multiple major outlets. He recorded 26 tackles, including 3 tackles for loss, in his first college season. Not bad for a kid who was still a teenager. But even that doesn't capture how physically dominant he was. Nearly 300-pound tackle who could move laterally like a linebacker, who had the raw strength to drive offensive linemen back into the backfield, who had instincts that made experienced defensive coordinators curse under their breath. His sophomore year in 2024 was arguably his best season statistically. 28 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. That tackle for loss number is remarkable. 9 times in a single season, Peter Woods penetrated the line of scrimmage and made a tackle before the play even had a chance to develop. That's not luck. That's not scheme. That's a player with the football intelligence and explosiveness to break through blocks before they're even fully set. He earned first-team All-ACC honors in his final season in 2025. And then he declared for the NFL Draft. Kansas City moved up, trading with the Los Angeles Rams, to select him at 29 overall. Brett Veach didn't want to miss on this kid. He made the call. He made the move. And now Peter Woods is a Kansas City Chief. Here is what you need to understand about what Peter Woods gives his defense in 2026. Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs' defensive coordinator, builds his defenses around pressure. He needs his front four to make the quarterback uncomfortable. He needs interior linemen who can collapse the pocket, who can occupy 2 blockers at once, who can free up the edge rushers to do their thing. The more chaos you can create inside, the more everything else on the defense works. That's Spagnuolo's philosophy. That's always been his philosophy. Peter Woods is built for exactly that. He's a disruptive force inside, 6'3", right around 300 pounds at his best weight, with the strength to bully offensive guards and the athleticism to split caps and create havoc. His college scouting report describes him as someone who naturally muddies the pocket, meaning even when he's not recording a sack, he makes the quarterback feel like the walls are closing in. He makes the quarterback step up, step left, step right, lose his rhythm. That's invaluable. That's the kind of play that doesn't show up in the basic stat line, but that changes games. And think about the opportunity in front of him. He's walking into a defensive front that is being rebuilt. There are snaps available. There is a role waiting. And he's going to be playing for Andy Reid, the greatest defensive mind of his generation, and Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive coordinators in the history of the sport. These coaches know how to develop players, know how to create situations where young talent can thrive. Peter Woods has the tools. He has the athletic profile. He has the competitive fire. A kid who started on varsity football as an 8th grader doesn't lack for motivation. He has the pedigree from Clemson, a program that has produced some of the best NFL defensive linemen of the last decade. And he has the perfect landing spot. There are questions. He's a rookie. Transitioning from college football to the NFL is never automatic. The offensive linemen he's going to face in 2026 are bigger, faster, more technically polished than anything he faced at Clemson. Some of his pass rush moves need refinement. His coaching staff at Clemson noted that he can get displaced by technically superior interior linemen. That depends more on power and athleticism than on pass rush technique at this point in his career. But here's the thing. The gap between college and pro is not going to swallow Peter Woods, because that gap has been anticipated. The Chiefs knew exactly what they were getting. They picked him knowing he was a developmental piece as much as an immediate contributor. They picked him knowing that Joe Cullen, their defensive line coach, was going to spend every week of training camp and the regular season polishing exactly those rough edges. And the physical ceiling, the absolute outer limit of what Peter Woods can become, is staggering. He's 21 years old. He ran a remarkable time for his size at the combine. He's got sub-300-pound athleticism in a frame that can carry a bit more weight as he matures. If you grade him against comparable prospects from recent drafts, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, John Newton from Illinois, Christian Barmore from Alabama, you're looking at a player who grades right in line with some of the best interior defensive linemen drafted in recent years. And none of those players were drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. None of those players were walking into a system run by Spagnuolo. None of those players had a coaching staff whose entire identity is built around developing young talent into championship contributors. Peter Woods in Kansas City is the right player in the right place at the right time. By the end of 2026, I believe we are going to be having very different conversations about Peter Woods than we are right now. Right now, he's a first-round pick with a ton of promise. By December, He could be one of the most feared interior defenders in the AFC. He could be the reason offensive coordinators stay up late on Wednesday nights, drawing up extra schemes just to account for where he lines up. That's the vision. That's the potential. And in Kansas City, potential has a habit of becoming reality faster than anyone expects. Now let's zoom out for a second, because I want you to see all three of these players together, not just individually, but as a group, as a unit, as the next wave of what the Chiefs dynasty is built on. Think about what you have. You have Tyquan Thornton, a receiver who can turn any play into a touchdown. A man running 4.28 speed who now has a real role, real snaps, real chemistry with the best quarterback in football. He's 26 years old. He's in his prime. He's hungry. He's motivated by years of failure and doubt and being released and being underestimated. And he has Patrick Mahomes throwing him the football. You have Noel Williams, a cornerback with ball-hawking instincts so sharp that he led all of Division I in interceptions as a senior. A player who rated in the 93rd percentile of all NFL cornerbacks in single coverage in his first NFL season. A player who PFF says is about to break out. A player whose final 5 games of 2025 showed exactly the kind of ascending trajectory that defines the start of a great career. He's 23 years old. He's just getting started. And you have Peter Woods, 21-year-old force of nature from Alabama who won 4 state championships in high school, was the number 1 defensive tackle prospect in the entire country, and now gets to develop under one of the best coaching staffs in league history. He's a first-round pick with a first-round ceiling and the hunger of a small-town Alabama kid who has been proving people wrong since he was 13 years old. 3 different positions. 3 different stories. But the same thread running through all of them. Every single one of these players has something to prove. Thornton has spent his entire career being doubted. The Patriots drafted him 2nd round and then gave up on him. He was a practice squad player when most guys his age were making Pro Bowls. Every time he catches a deep ball for a touchdown in 2026, it's going to be a statement. It's going to be a reminder that the player New England threw away is now one of the weapons on the most successful franchise in modern NFL history. Williams spent his rookie year sitting on the bench, watching, waiting, playing in the shadows of established veterans while his instincts were screaming at him to just get on the field. He finished the season on a tear and then had to spend the entire offseason knowing he was good enough but not yet trusted enough. That kind of season builds fire. That kind of year makes you obsessive about preparation. Williams is going to come into 2026 absolutely locked in because he knows what he can do, the coaches know what he can do, and now the entire NFL is about to find out. And Peter Woods has been the best player on every team he's ever been on. High school state champion. Freshman All-American. First team All-ACC. He's never been in a situation where the spotlight was bigger than his talent. And now the spotlight is the NFL. Now the stage is Arrowhead Stadium. Now the audience is the entire football world. Some players shrink in that moment. Peter Woods. He's been preparing for that moment his entire life. Here's something else I want you to think about. Something that doesn't get talked about enough when we discuss the Chiefs dynasty. Andy Reid wins because of culture. Full stop. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is generational. Yes, Steve Spagnuolo is a defensive genius. Yes, Brett Veach has been one of the best evaluators of talent in the league for years. All of that is true. But the reason Kansas City keeps developing players that no one else figured out, the reason they keep turning rough diamonds into polished gems, is the culture inside that building. It's the way veteran players teach young players. It's the way coaches communicate. It's the way the entire organization operates with a championship standard that becomes contagious. Tyquan Thornton didn't just get better because he got reps. He got better because he was in a building where championship habits are taught every single day. Noel Williams didn't just show flashes of brilliance by accident. He showed flashes because the defensive backs room in Kansas City is run with an attention to detail that most organizations only dream about. And Peter Woods is about to walk into that same building. He's about to practice every week against offensive linemen who are locked into a championship mindset. He's going to be in film rooms with coaches who can see things about his technique that he can't see himself. He's going to be inside an organization that has produced defensive linemen who changed games in January when it mattered most. That's what culture does. It accelerates everything. It takes raw talent and compresses the development timeline. It takes players who might take 3 or 4 years to figure things out elsewhere and gets them figured out in 18 months. That's why I'm so bullish on all three of these guys. It's not just their individual talent. It's where they are. It's who they're around. It's the system they're in. The Chiefs don't just draft good players and hope for the best. They take good players and turn them into great ones. Repeatedly. Consistently. Year after year. Let me tell you about a specific scenario I want you to picture. This is what 2026 could look like if all three of these players hit. It's December. The Chiefs are chasing a seed in the AFC playoffs. They're playing a team with a good offense, a dangerous quarterback, receivers who can threaten them deep, a running game that can wear down a defense. On the defensive side of the ball, Noel Williams is across from their top outside receiver. Not their slot guy, not a third option, their best weapon. And Williams has been getting better every single week. He's been the guy Spagnuolo has been trusting more and more as the season goes on. He's locked in, chin down, playing with the confidence of someone who knows exactly what he's doing. The opposing quarterback looks at that matchup and has a moment of doubt, because Williams doesn't look like a second-year cornerback anymore. He looks like a veteran. And on the inside of that defensive front, Peter Woods is lined up next to a veteran tackle, and every snap he's taking another step forward. He's using his hands better. He's reading the guard's pre-snap alignment. He learned it in practice 2 weeks ago from a coaching session with Joe Cullen, and now it's clicking. The offensive line knows he's there. They're doubling him on run plays. They have to. And because they're doubling Woods, because they're dedicating extra resources to contain him, the edge rushers are getting one-on-one matchups. Pressure comes home. The quarterback scrambles. Incomplete pass. Punt. And on offense, Kansas City is set up beautifully. Rice and Worthy are drawing double coverage. The opposing defense is walking the tightrope of covering the two best Chiefs receivers, and then there's Thornton, running down the sideline. The safety is respecting Rice's route over the middle. Cornerback is playing deep because he knows Thornton can take the top off a defense in a heartbeat. And Mahomes sees it. Mahomes always sees it. He lets it go. Spiral. Perfect. Thornton runs under it. 60 yards. Touchdown. Arrowhead shakes. That's the vision. That's what these three players can deliver. That's what they're capable of. And it's not fantasy. It's not wishful thinking. It's built on evidence. It's built on talent and trajectory and the exact right landing spots. Now I want to address the skeptics. Because there are always skeptics. And the skeptics have some fair points. On Thornton, the concern is simple. His production last season happened in a very specific context. It happened when other receivers were hurt or suspended. It happened when he was getting more opportunities by default than by design. The worry is that with a full, healthy receiver room, Thornton goes back to limited snaps, limited targets, and those 19 catches from 2025 look like the ceiling, not the floor. That's a reasonable concern. I hear it. I understand it. But here's my counter. The Chiefs committed to Thornton. 2 years, $14 million max. They don't do that for a guy they see as a depth piece. They do that for a guy they see as a real contributor. They do that for a guy who showed them something in practice and in games that made them say, we want to build this offense with him in it. The fact that Hollywood Brown and Juju are both gone tells you everything. The path to snaps is wider than it's ever been. And Thornton has a 4.2840. You don't suppress a 4.2840. You use it. On Williams, the concern is continuity. He played great in spots, but spots aren't the same as a full season. Can he handle the increased responsibility? Can he handle being a true starter opposite a rookie cornerback in Mansour Delane? When teams decide to pick on him, and they will, because the Chiefs secondary is brand new, can he hold up? Those are fair questions. And the honest answer is we don't fully know yet. But the evidence we do have, the PFF grades, the percentile rankings, the trajectory of the season, all of it points toward a player who is ready for this moment. The Chiefs coaching staff clearly believes in him. They traded McDuffie knowing Williams was in the building. That's confidence. That's trust. On Peter Woods, The concern is the most straightforward. He's a rookie. Rookies at defensive tackle often struggle. The physicality of the NFL interior is a completely different animal from even the best college competition. Some first-round defensive tackles take 2 or 3 years before they become the player everyone expected. Is Woods going to be a dominant force in year 1? Or is he going to be a developmental piece who contributes here and there? Fair concern. Completely fair. But I'll say this, Chiefs didn't take Woods to sit him down. They took him 29th overall and gave up assets to move up. They have a plan for him. And the early reports from rookie minicamp? He's been impressive. He's picked up the scheme quickly. He's already showing the same disruptive quality that made him a first-round pick. He doesn't need to be Chris Jones in year 1. He just needs to be the guy who makes every offensive lineman in front of him work harder than they planned. He just needs to be the guy who opens up pass rush lanes for everyone around him. He just needs to be a difference maker on a defense that is rebuilding. And on that front, the early signs are very, very good. Here's the thing about Kansas City that I think gets lost sometimes in the conversation about dynasties and legacies and where the Chiefs rank in history. The most impressive thing they've done, more impressive than any individual Super Bowl victory, is the constant, relentless renewal. Every year, someone leaves. Every year, the roster changes. Every year, there are people on the outside who look at the departures and wonder if this is finally the year the dynasty ends. And every year, Kansas City finds the next guy. Every year, someone emerges. Every year, a player who nobody was talking about in July is essential to what the Chiefs are doing in January. That's not luck. That's not Patrick Mahomes making average players look good, although Mahomes certainly helps. That's an organizational philosophy. That's a scouting department that finds value where other teams don't. That's a coaching staff that develops what it drafts. That's a culture that produces champions at every level. Tyquan Thornton is the next iteration of that story. Noel Williams is the next iteration of that story. Peter Woods is the next iteration of that story. They're not the end of the Chiefs dynasty. They might be the beginning of its next chapter. And that should excite you. It should excite you if you're a Kansas City fan, obviously. But even if you're not, even if you root for someone else, even if you've spent the last several years pulling your hair out every time this franchise raises another trophy, you should be able to appreciate what they've built. What they keep building. They somehow keep sustaining through rosters changes and age and cap constraints and everything else the NFL throws at a dynasty to break it down. Because Thornton and Williams and Woods are not the old Chiefs. They're not Travis Kelce's era or Tyreek Hill's era. They're not the team that won those first 3 Super Bowls and became legends. They're something new. They're the next wave. And the wave is coming. Let me leave you with one last thought. Patrick Mahomes is 29 years old going into the 2026 season. He's in his absolute prime. His arm is still the most extraordinary weapon in professional football. His ability to make plays from nothing, to extend plays, to escape pressure, to find receivers in impossible windows, has not diminished. If anything, as he gets more experienced, as his football intelligence compounds year over year, he gets scarier, not less scary. And now he has Thornton running verticals. He has Williams locking down opposing receivers so the opposing quarterback can't get into rhythm. He has Peter Woods clogging up running lanes and murdering pockets from the inside. The 2026 Kansas City Chiefs are not the same team we've watched win championships. They're younger in some ways, hungrier in others, less proven, maybe, but built on the same foundation. The same coaching, the same philosophy, same quarterback. And if Thornton has his breakthrough year, if Williams becomes the starting cornerback this defense needs, if Peter Woods announces himself to the NFL as the next great interior defender in Kansas City's lineage, then the football world is going to have to reckon with something that should honestly no longer surprise anyone. The Chiefs are still here. The Chiefs are still competing. The Chiefs are still dangerous. These 3 players are a big, big reason why. Tyquan Thornton, Noel Williams, Peter Woods. Remember those names. Write them down if you have to. Come back to this video in December when the Chiefs are in the thick of the playoff race and one of these guys just made the biggest play of the game. Because the wave is coming. And Arrowhead Stadium is about to be very, very loud. That's it for today. If you've been watching Kansas City under a microscope like I have, drop your thoughts in the comments. Which of these three do you think has the biggest year? Is it Thornton finally becoming a reliable weapon? Is it Williams locking down the #1 corner role? Or is it Peter Woods being that first-round rookie who actually lives up to the hype right away? Let me know. The conversation is just getting started. And if you want more Chiefs breakdowns, more NFL deep dives, more of the kind of storytelling that makes you feel like you actually understand what's happening in this league, you know what to do. Hit the button. Stay with us. The season is right around the corner. And Kansas City is ready.